Hey guys, tonight we're ducking behind the marble counters and the brass grills of the 1960s American bank into the strange, starched, and quietly outrageous world of the woman at the teller window. Not the men in the offices, not the names on the building. The girls up front, who counted the money, balanced it to the penny, and were trusted with everything except a raise. It means a lot that you're here, and a quick like or a comment helps this little channel more than you'd guess, especially from those of you who hit subscribe and then immediately fall asleep before the first segment ends. That's the dream. Drop a comment and tell me where you're tuning in from tonight and whether you have ever in your life balanced a checkbook to the exact penny without quietly weeping. Settle in. Get the lights off, the fan going, the blanket up to your chin. Maybe set your alarm now, while you still can, because in a moment you're going to be on the wrong side of a vault that refuses to open before 9, no matter who is asking. How do you handle thousands of dollars a day and still get refused a credit card of your own? What happens when you're 11 cents short and the doors are already locked? Why a woman at 50 was called one of the girls? How you train the young man who will be your boss by spring, and smile doing it. What you actually say when someone slides a note across your counter and quietly robs you. And who decided, exactly, that a toaster was a fair trade for your life savings? Congratulations. You just woke up in small-town America, 1963. Your hair is set and sprayed into a helmet that will outlast the workday. Your feet already hurt and it is not yet 9. And somewhere under the counter near your right shoe is a button you hope to God you never have to press. Good luck. You arrive before the doors open, before the customers, before the men in the office have finished their first cup of coffee. Your first job of the day is to walk to the vault, sign your name in a ledger, and carry a tray of money back to your station. Someone counts it. You count it again. The number on the slip and the number in the tray have to agree completely, right now, before a single customer has done anything, because from this moment forward, every dollar that passes your hands is officially your responsibility. The tray itself is a small, heavy thing, sectioned like a printer's case, and it rides in your 2 hands across the lobby with the solemnity of a chalice. You are not carrying money so much as carrying blame in advance. Every bill in it is a bill you will have to produce, accounted for, at the end of the day, and the bank's entire opinion of you rests on whether you can. Mr. Dempsey, the head teller, stands at the vault with the second key and the patience of a man who has watched 10,000 morning counts. He thumbs a strap of tens to confirm the band, sets it down, and writes a small number on a slip without ever appearing to hurry. He has been doing this since before you were hired, and he will be doing it after you leave, and the bank treats him as a fixture, which he is, the way a lighthouse is a fixture. You count the strap bundles first, because the bank has already counted those and they are a matter of faith. Then you count the loose, the singles and fives that come back warm and creased and tired, and these you count by hand, the bills passing your thumb in a soft riffle. The coin you take by weight and by the printed wrappers, a roll of pennies announcing itself as 50 cents whether you believe it or not. The number has to land exactly. There is no such thing as roughly right with a cash drawer. You are building the foundation that every transaction today will stand on, and a foundation that is off by $1 at 8 is off by $1 at 5, except by 5 it is hiding somewhere in 400 other transactions and laughing at you. So you count it now. When it is clean and findable and yours alone, you sign the ledger. Your name, in your own hand, next to a figure, is a sentence you are agreeing to be judged by. The signature is the whole ceremony, really. The bank does not lock the cash to your wrist. It locks it to your name, which is cheaper and considerably harder to escape. The drawer slides into its place at your station with a sound you could pick out of 100. Lance, the new young man in loans, drifts past with his coffee and wishes you a good morning, and you wish him one back, and he has no idea that you are at this moment holding more cash in your hands than he will touch all week. He is on his way to a desk. You are on your way to a window. The coin tray settles, the singles go in their slot, the fives in theirs, the 10s and 20s standing at attention like a small disciplined regiment. You straighten a corner that does not need straightening. The drawer is right. You made it right, with your own counting, before anyone arrived to doubt you, and that quiet certainty is the closest thing to authority the day will offer you. Outside, a man is already waiting at the door, hat in hand, watching the clock above your head. The keys turn. The morning officially begins, and the figure you signed for sits in the drawer beneath your hands, patient, exact, and entirely your problem until dark. You settle into your station and begin laying out your tools the way a surgeon lays out instruments. The date stamp goes here. The validating stamp goes there. The endorsement stamps, the coin tray, the pen on its little chain, the adding machine with its long paper tongue, all of it has a place, and the place does not change. You are setting up a small machine made of your own 2 hands and a counter, and for the next 8 hours that machine has to run without a single mistake nobody can afford. The date stamp comes first, because the date stamp is the heartbeat of the whole operation. You roll the little rubber bands until today's numbers line up in the window, and you test it once on scrap, a clean, hard and satisfying thunk, and the thunk is correct, and you are satisfied in a way that is difficult to explain to anyone who has never owned a stamp. A teller's stamp is a small kingdom. It is the one thing on the counter that obeys her absolutely. The adding machine you treat with more suspicion, the way you would treat a co-worker who is usually reliable but has opinions. You feed it a fresh roll of paper, you crank the lever twice to be sure it bites, and you run a quick test of 9s down the keys. The numbers print, the tape advances, the carriage returns with a small self-important ding. Good. It is awake. It will spend the day translating your fingers into a column of figures that has to agree with reality by closing. Ruth, at the next window, is doing the identical ritual 6 feet away, and the two of you do it in a companionable silence built from years of mornings. She lines up her pens. She squares her deposit, slips into a stack so crisp it could give a paper cut. She snaps a rubber band around a fresh pad with a sound like a tiny starting pistol. The stamps go in their tray in the order you reach for them most, which is a private map only you can read. Validating stamp at your right hand, because every deposit needs it. Endorsement stamp behind it. The pen chained to the counter, because a bank assumes, correctly, that pens evaporate. None of this is written in a manual. It is the accumulated wisdom of a person who has learned that 4 wasted seconds, multiplied by 300 customers, is a line out the door. You check your supply of wrappers and straps, the coin papers and the currency bands, because running out of them at the wrong moment is its own small humiliation. You count your blank money orders, which are tracked like loose ammunition, each one a number somebody will eventually ask you about. You make sure the rubber finger cot is in the drawer, the little ribbed thimble that saves your thumb from the slow paper-cut death of counting cash all day. The counter is now armed. Everything within reach, nothing out of place. A station built so that your hands can fly through it without your eyes ever having to search. This is craft, the unglamorous kind nobody photographs. The lobby will see a pleasant woman behind a counter. It will not see the small, precise armory she assembled at 8 to make the pleasantness possible. Mr. Foss, the manager, walks the line once before opening, hands clasped behind his back, nodding at each station like a general reviewing troops he will never personally lead into anything. He says the counter looks sharp. He does not know which stamp is which or why the pens live where they live. He knows only that the window runs reliably, the way he knows a clock runs, which is to say without any curiosity about the mechanism. You flex your fingers once. The drawer is set. The stamps are loaded. The machine of you is ready, and it is a good machine, and it is about to be taken completely for granted. You got dressed this morning according to rules nobody wrote down but everybody enforces. A dress or a skirted suit, never trousers. Stockings, because bare legs are unthinkable. Heels, because flat shoes look unserious. Your hair is set and sprayed into a shape it will hold until roughly the middle of the afternoon. You will stand in this outfit, on a marble floor, for the better part of 8 hours, and the outfit was designed by people who have never once stood at a counter for 8 hours in their lives. The getting ready began last night, which is the part nobody counts as work. The hair went up in rollers the size of soup cans. You slept on them, more or less, the way you sleep on a decision you have already regretted. And this morning you brushed and teased and sprayed the result into a structure with the architectural ambition of a small cathedral. Properly lacquered, it could rent itself out as load-bearing. It will survive customers. It will survive lunch. It will not, you know from experience, survive an open door on a windy afternoon, and so you have quietly developed opinions about which customer leaves the door open. The stockings are a daily negotiation with physics. They run if you look at them wrong, they twist if you walk too fast, and a single snag at the start of the day is a small private catastrophe you will carry, smiling, until 5. You keep a spare pair in your handbag the way a sensible person keeps a spare tire, hoping never to need it, knowing you will. There is clear nail polish in your purse for exactly one purpose, and it is not your nails. It is to stop a run in its tracks like a tiny, cold-blooded act of mercy. The girdle is the foundation nobody mentions and everybody wears. It holds the line of the dress, it holds you, and it holds a grudge by the middle of the afternoon. You will spend the day standing at attention inside a garment engineered for posture rather than circulation, and the trade the era has offered you is simple. Look effortless. Suffer privately. Never let the suffering show on your face, because the face is part of the uniform too. The heels are the final insult, lovely and cruel. They click smartly across the marble when you walk, which is the entire point, a sound that says competence and arrival. They also concentrate your full weight onto a surface the size of a postage stamp, and then ask you to stand on it for an entire business day. By closing, they have become a personal enemy with a name you do not say in front of customers. Mrs. Caldwell from personnel does a quiet inspection most mornings, not officially, just by existing near the door with a glance that takes inventory. She straightens her own collar as she passes, a small gesture that is also an instruction, and she once told a new girl, kindly and unforgettably, that a smudge of lipstick on a tooth costs the bank nothing and costs the girl everything. The girl never forgot it. Neither did anyone who overheard. The outfit, taken together, exists to communicate a single message to a public that will be handing you its money. This institution is orderly, controlled, and entirely trustworthy. You are the proof of it, worn daily like a flag. The marble says permanence, and the brass says wealth, and the woman in the pressed dress with the lacquered hair says you may safely hand over your savings, and the bank understood, long before you did, exactly how much of its image it was hanging on your appearance. None of it is comfortable. All of it is required. And you stand there in the full costume of trust, feet aching before the first customer, hair holding for now, and you greet the morning with a smile that is, against all odds, real, because the woman wearing the uniform is still in there, running the place from inside the disguise. A woman slides a small booklet across the counter to you, worn soft at the corners, and you open it to the last stamped line. This is her savings account. Not a number on a screen, not a statement in the mail, a physical book she carries in her purse and brings in person every single time she wants to add or take out $1. You post her deposit, you stamp the new balance, and you hand the book back. Her entire financial history lives in your stamp and her coat pocket. The passbook is a small, sturdy and sacred thing, blue or green or oxblood, with the bank's name in gold on the cover and a ruled ledger inside, and it has the worn dignity of an object handled with respect for years. The pages are columns: date, deposit, withdrawal, balance. You read it the way a doctor reads a chart, the whole life of an account legible in a glance. Every careful dollar this woman has set aside laid out in a stamped, descending stairway of trust. There is no computer to consult, which is the part that astonishes people later. The book is the record. The bank keeps its own ledger in the back, and yours has to agree with it. But at the counter, in the moment, the truth of this account is whatever is stamped in this booklet, and you are the one holding the stamp. The authority feels enormous and is, briefly, entirely real, and it lasts exactly as long as the transaction. Mrs. Okafor, who comes in every Thursday, sets her book down already open to the right page, because she has done this for 11 years and considers fumbling a moral failing. She deposits the same amount most weeks. In worn singles she has clearly been folding into a coffee tin, and she watches your hands the entire time, not from distrust but from a kind of ceremony. This money is the most disciplined thing in her life. She wants to see it land. You post the deposit on the machine, you write the new balance, and then comes the moment the whole ritual has been building toward: the stamp. You press it down, a clean, hard thunk, the bank's mark landing on her page like a small official blessing, and the sound is so satisfying that customers have been known to smile at it without knowing why. The thunk means it is real now. The thunk is a receipt you can hear. The withdrawals are the other half of the job, and they are quieter. Someone needs $40 for a doctor, for a coat, for a debt that has come due, and you watch the careful balance drop, and you stamp that too, with the same clean thunk, because the stamp does not editorialize. It records the joy and the emergency in the identical neutral ink. A passbook is an honest object. It cannot pretend the month was better than it was. The whole system runs on the passbook, never leaving the customer and never being wrong, which means it runs, in practice, on you. Lose track of a posting, and the book and the bank's ledger drift apart, and a drift between two records is the beginning of a very long evening for somebody, usually you. So you are exact, line after line, book after book, a human ledger with a pulse and a stamp and aching feet, missus. Okafor takes her book back, checks the new total with a small private nod, and tucks it into her purse next to the coffee tin singles she did not deposit this week, the emergency fund of the emergency fund. She thanks you by name, you thank her by hers. The line moves up one. Another book lands on the counter, soft at the corners, open to its last stamped line, another life, in another pocket waiting for the small official thunk that says yes, it counted, it is recorded, it is safe. You pick up the stamp. The day is made of this, one careful page at a time. A man hands you a check and waits, already a little impatient, while you do the thing you are actually paid to do, which is decide whether to believe him. You check the signature against the card. You check the balance. You check the endorsement, the date, the amount written out in words against the amount written in numbers. You have learned to read a signature the way a customs officer reads a face, and in about 4 seconds you will either count out his money or quietly decide that something here is wrong. The check is a small contract written in trust and ink, and your job is to be the one person in the building who does not take it on faith. Most of them are fine. A paycheck, a refund, a birthday 20 from an aunt in Ohio, all perfectly ordinary, all sailing through. But the bank does not pay you to be right about the ordinary ones. It pays you to catch the one in 400 that is not, and the only way to catch the one is to truly look at all 400. The signature card is your scripture. You pull it, you lay the check beside it, and your eye does a thing it has trained itself to do, comparing the loops, the pressure, the little private flourishes a person makes without thinking. A forger can copy the shape of a name. He almost never copies the rhythm of it, the unconscious speed, and the rhythm is what you are reading. The name looks right and the music is wrong, and that is the whole tell. The amounts have to agree with themselves, words against numbers, because the words are the legal truth and the numbers are the convenient lie, and the gap between them is where mistakes and small crimes both like to hide. 50 written, 500 numbered. A date that has not happened yet. An endorsement in a hand that does not match the front. None of it is dramatic. All of it is a quiet little wrongness, and your stomach knows before your brain finishes the sentence. There is a man at your window right now, Mr. Brandt, who you do not know, holding a check made out to himself, drumming 2 fingers on the marble in a way that is supposed to read as bored and reads, to you, as something else. You smile. You take your time, the exact ordinary amount of time, because the worst thing you can do is let your face change. The face stays pleasant. The mind goes cold and careful. The two of them have learned to work the counter as a team. You ask, lightly, for a second piece of identification, the way you might ask about the weather, and you watch what the question does to him. An honest man is annoyed. A dishonest one is afraid. And annoyance and fear do entirely different things to a pair of drumming fingers. This is not in a manual either. This is a skill built one nervous stranger at a time, the soft, quiet and unteachable science of reading a human being across a counter in the 4 seconds before you commit the bank's money to him. The check is good, as it turns out, and Mr. Brandt was simply a tense man having a tense day, and you count out his money with a warm apology in your voice for the small delay. He leaves satisfied, never knowing he was, for 4 seconds, thoroughly investigated by a woman he assumed was just a clerk. That is the job working perfectly. The job works perfectly when it is invisible. The bank calls this approving a check, which makes it sound like a stamp. It is not a stamp. It is a judgment, made dozens of times an hour, under a pleasant smile, by a person trusted to decide whether to believe a stranger but not. The bank has decided elsewhere, trusted to decide much else. You slide his cash across. Next, please. The doors are locked, the customers are gone, and now comes the part of the day that decides whether you go home. You count your drawer. You add up every ticket, every deposit slip, every check, every withdrawal, and the total in your hands has to match the total on paper exactly. Not approximately, not close enough. To the penny. They call it proving cash, and the word is honest. because what you are proving every single evening is that you can be trusted with the one thing nobody trusts you to decide anything about. The lobby goes quiet in a way it never is during the day, the marble suddenly cavernous. The only sounds, the adding machines down the line, clicking and ringing, as 4 women bend over 4 drawers and conduct the same private trial at once. This is the hour the public never sees. They think the bank closes at 3. It does not close at 3. It closes when every drawer agrees with every record, and not 1 second before. You start with the cash, because the cash is the truth and everything else is a claim about it. You count it the careful way, strapping the bills back into bundles, riffling the loose ones past your thumb, totaling the coin by its wrappers. You write the figure down. Then you turn to the paper, the slips and tickets stacked in the order you took them, and you run them through the machine in a long climbing column, your fingers moving without your eyes, the tape unspooling like a verdict being typed in real time. The 2 numbers meet at the bottom. On a good day, they are the same number, and the relief of that is a small, clean and private joy nobody outside this room would understand, the feeling of a day that closed like a well-made drawer. You strap up, you initial the slip. You are, in the bank's eyes, briefly and completely vindicated, until tomorrow, when you will have to prove it again from nothing. The machine is your witness and your accuser both, and tonight it testifies in your favour. Down the line, the 4 of you work in a companionable hush, the adding machines muttering their long columns, the straps snapping, the coin chuckling into its paper wrappers, a small nightly choir of arithmetic nobody has ever been thanked for. The marble that spent all day impressing strangers now just holds the cold, the quiet, and the 4 bowed heads. There is no version of this where close enough is allowed. A penny over is as wrong as a penny short, because a draw that is over means a customer somewhere got shorted, and a customer who got shorted is a phone call and an apology and a small crack in the temple of trust the whole marble building exists to project. The bank would genuinely rather you stay until dark than let 1 nickel float free in the world unaccounted for. You understand the logic, even when it is keeping you here. The bank cannot tell the difference between an honest mistake and a slow theft, except by demanding that there be no mistakes at all. So it demands perfection, nightly, from the lowest paid people in the building, and calls the perfection a minimum standard rather than the small daily miracle it actually is. You balance to the penny because the alternative is a question about your character, and you have learned to answer that question before it is ever asked. Your draw balances tonight. The figure agrees, clean and final, and you strap the last bundle and slide the whole tray across to Mr. Dempsey, who locks it in the vault with the small ceremonial click of a day formally closed. You reach for your coat at last. Tomorrow the drawer will be empty again, the slate wiped, the proof demanded all over from nothing, as though tonight never happened and you had never once been right. You were, though. The tape says so, in its own long, honest hand. You are short, not by much, 11 cents, a dime and a penny, an amount you would not bend down to pick up off a sidewalk. But it does not matter how small it is, because the drawer does not balance, and a drawer that does not balance means you stay. The other tellers are pulling on coats. The manager is checking his watch, and you are going back through every slip you touched today, in order, looking for 11 cents, because the alternative is signing a paper that says you cannot account for the bank's money. 11 cents has no right to ruin an evening, and it is going to anyway. The insult of the amount is the whole experience. $100 missing would at least be a serious problem, worthy of the time. 11 cents is a gnat with a law degree, legally entitled to the same complete attention as a fortune, and you must give it that attention with a straight face. So you go back to the beginning. You rerun the tape, slowly this time, watching each figure as it prints, because the most likely culprit is a transposition, a 41 keyed as a 40-something, 2 little digits that traded places and walked off with your dime. The machine clicks through the day again, every deposit, every cash check, the whole 8 hours reduced to a climbing column, and you read it like a detective reading the same report for the 4th time, certain the answer is in there being smug. Mr. Foss comes by, jingling his keys in the universal language of a man who would like to leave, and asks, not unkindly, if you have found it. You have not found it. He suggests, helpfully, that you check your figures, as though this had not occurred to you, as though you had simply been standing here for 20 minutes admiring the lamp. You thank him for the insight. He goes to wait by the door, and the keys keep jingling, a small metallic countdown attached to your patience. The thing about 11 cents is that it could be anywhere or nowhere. A penny stuck in the seam of the coin tray, a nickel given as a dime in a moment of Friday haste, a deposit slip added wrong by a customer and trusted by you. You take the coin tray apart, you feel along the seams with a fingertip, you turn the drawer over to the light, hunting a coin that may have rolled into the felt and is lying there in the dark, costing you your evening out of sheer geometry. Ruth, bless her, does not leave. She comes back, rolls up her sleeves and runs your slips against your tape from the other end while you work from the top. Two women in a locked bank at dusk chasing a dime, because she knows that tomorrow the dime will be hers, and because some solidarities do not need to be announced. She finds it, a withdrawal posted as 11 cents light, a slip where your own neat hand wrote a figure, your own neat fingers, then keyed one digit shy. There it is, 11 cents hiding in plain sight in your own handwriting, the way these things always are, an error so small, quiet and human that catching it feels less like triumph and more like apology. You correct the entry, you rerun the tape. The numbers meet at the bottom, equal at last, and the relief is real and entirely out of proportion to a dime, the way the whole evening has been out of proportion to a dime. You sign the slip, the drawer goes to the vault. Mr. Foss, vindicated in his belief that the girls simply need to check their figures, holds the door and wishes you a pleasant evening. You wish him one back. Ruth walks out with you into the cold, and neither of you says anything about the 11 cents, because tomorrow there will be a new one, waiting in someone's careful handwriting to ruin a different perfectly good night. You are 46 years old. You have worked at this bank for 19 years, and everyone, the manager, the customers, the new boy in the loan office, calls you one of the girls. The girls will handle that. Ask one of the girls. The girls up front. It is not said cruelly. That is almost the strange part. It is said warmly, automatically, the way you would name a fixture, and the warmth is exactly what makes it impossible to object to without seeming like you have lost your sense of humour. The word does a quiet, enormous amount of work. A girl is temporary. A girl is helped, supervised, looked after. A girl does not have a mortgage or 19 years of perfect draws or a teenager of her own at home, and so the word, applied to you daily, gently erases all of those things and replaces them with something small and patable. You are not a woman who runs the front of a bank. You are one of the girls who runs the front of a bank, and the one little syllable is doing the entire job of keeping you in your place. Most of the women up front are well past girlhood by any honest measure. Edith has grandchildren and a way of looking over her glasses that can stop a rude customer mid-sentence. Carlene has been balancing this branch's hardest window since before the manager could drive. You are a room full of competent, grown, and adult women being addressed, collectively and affectionately, as a kindergarten class, and the affection is genuine, which is precisely why nobody can figure out how to be insulted by it. The customers do it too, and from them it is even harder to mind, because they mean nothing by it at all. The girl helped me last time. I'll wait for the girl who knows my account. From a regular it is practically a compliment, a sign he trusts you, and you take it as one, because you have long since made peace with the fact that the word and the respect are arriving in the same breath, hopelessly tangled, impossible to separate without cutting both. The new boy in loans, Gerald, is 24, has been here 5 months, and refers to the entire teller line as the girls without a flicker of irony, including to women who are stamping passbooks while he was learning to ride a bicycle. He is not arrogant about it. He simply absorbed the word from the air of the place, the way everyone does, and now wears it without noticing. The way a man wears a hat he has forgotten is on his head. You could correct it. You have imagined correcting it. Some version of yourself who says, evenly, that you would prefer your name, or even your job title, either of which you have earned several times over. But the cost of that sentence is high and strange. It would make you the difficult one, the one without a sense of humour, the girl who got funny about being called a girl, and the word would close back over the moment like water, warmer than ever. So you let it ride, mostly, the way you let a lot of things ride, with a competence so total it becomes its own quiet argument. You cannot stop them calling you a girl. You can be so undeniably good at the work that the word starts to sound, to anyone actually paying attention, faintly ridiculous, a little boy's word stuck to a grown woman holding the whole operation together with 2 hands and a rubber stamp. Edith, over her glasses, calls you dear, and calls the manager dear, and calls a difficult customer dear, in a tone that has gotten 3 people to lower their voices this week, and you understand that she has found her own answer to the whole thing, which is to out-warmth them all. The girls up front, they call you. You answer to it. You also run the place. Both of these are true, and only one of them is written on the door. Somewhere in the unwritten list of your duties, between counting money and balancing to the penny, sits a whole second job nobody put on paper. You greet the regulars by name. You ask after the daughter, the hip, the new car. You keep the lobby pleasant. And yes, more often than not, you make the coffee, because somewhere it was decided that a woman is standing here anyway and the pot is right there. None of this appears in your job title. All of it appears in how quickly you are missed when you are out sick. The greeting is real, skilled, and invisible labour disguised as friendliness, which is the most efficient kind of labour to hide. You have a working file in your head on 100 customers, and the file is not in any drawer. Mr. Pruitt's wife has been ill. The Lombardos just had their second. Old Mr. Healy lost his brother in the spring and comes in mostly to talk. None of this is in your training. All of it is the job. The pleasantness has to be load-bearing, which means it cannot crack. A customer can arrive furious about a hold on a check, certain he has been wronged, ready for a fight, and your face does not change, your voice stays warm, and somewhere in the next 90 seconds the fight quietly drains out of him because there is nothing to push against. You are a shock absorber in a skirted suit. The bank installed you for exactly this and pays you for none of it, because soothing an angry man does not show up on a tape at the end of the day. Then there is the coffee, the small daily monument to how all of this gets assigned. Nobody ever decided, in a meeting, that the tellers would make the coffee. It simply settled onto the women the way dust settles onto a shelf, by gravity, by the unexamined logic that a woman and a coffee pot in the same room are clearly meant for each other. You make it because the alternative is no coffee, and the men have made it abundantly clear they will sooner go without than learn. Mr. Healy shuffles up to your window with no transaction at all today, just a folded newspaper and an opinion about the weather, and you give him his 2 minutes, asking about his garden, which you happen to remember has tomatoes in it, because remembering the tomatoes is the entire service and the man knows it. He leaves lighter than he came. You have made the bank for him a warm place in a cold season, and the bank has no line item for warmth and would be baffled to learn it was being provided. The strange economics of it is that the unpaid half of the job is the half that keeps the customers. That loyalty is worth real money to the bank, and it is generated daily for free by the people the bank pays the least. You refill the pot when it runs low because Gerald from Loans has appeared with an empty cup and the helpless expression of a man confronting a machine he has decided is beyond him. You are not his secretary. You make the coffee anyway because the pot is right there, because that is how it has always gone, and because the small surrenders are easier than the conversation it would take to stop them. The percolator gurgles. The lobby smells like a place that cares. At the end of the day, when they tally what a teller is worth, they will count the drawers and the transactions and the hours at the window. They will not count the names you carried, the tempers you cooled, the 2 minutes you spared a lonely man, or the coffee. None of it is on the tape. All of it is why the place runs. You wipe down the counter, you rinse the pot, and you go home having done 2 full jobs and been paid, generously, for not quite one. On Friday you are handed a small envelope, and inside it is a wage the bank has a particular word for, not a salary, pin money, supplemental, a little something extra a woman earns on the side, the theory goes, while a man somewhere provides the real income. You take this envelope home to an apartment you pay for yourself, to bills with only your name on them, to a life funded entirely by the money everyone has agreed is not really money. The theory has never met your rent. The rent does not care about the theory. Pin money is a marvellous, weightless and dishonest phrase, and you have come to admire it the way you would admire a very well-made lie. It conjures a woman buying ribbons and small frivolities, topping up a household a husband already keeps afloat, earning for fun and lipstick. It is a phrase built to make a wage sound like a hobby. And the genius of it is that once the wage is a hobby, paying a hobby poorly is not an injustice. It is practically a courtesy. The trouble is the arithmetic, which is, unfortunately for the phrase, your specialty. You sit at the kitchen table on Friday night with the envelope and the bills. and you do the sum the bank prefers not to, the rent and the gas and the groceries and the bus and the shoes that the standing destroys, against the figure that is officially just a little something extra. The numbers are not a hobby. The numbers are a tightrope, and you walk it every month on a salary the institution insists is a safety net under someone else's. Dolores, 2 windows down, supports a mother and a son on her PIN money, and Carlene has not had a husband to supplement anything in a decade, and Edith's husband has been too ill to work for years, so that her hobby wages are, quietly, the entire floor the family stands on. The little something extra is, for a great many of you, the little something everything. The word does its damage precisely because nobody says it cruelly. The manager does not sneer PIN money at you. He would be hurt to be told he had insulted anyone. The phrase lives in the air of the era, in the salary tables, in the assumption baked so deep nobody remembers baking it, that a woman's pay is a garnish on a meal a man is providing, and an assumption that deep does not need anyone to defend it. It just quietly sets everyone's wages and goes to lunch. You cash the same paychecks all day that dwarf your own, men collecting in an afternoon what you make across a careful week, and you count their money out without comment because the comment would change nothing and cost everything. You know what the work is worth. You know what the drawer is worth, never short a nickel, 19 years running. The gap between what it is worth and what it is called is the gap you live in, and you have furnished it, and made it a home, on PIN money. The envelope is thin in a way that has nothing to do with the size of the job. You tuck it into your purse next to the passbook for your own small savings, the account you built a careful dollar at a time, the proof in your own hand that the supplemental income has been supplementing exactly one household, yours, this whole time. The bank stamped that book. The bank, somewhere, knows. Monday you will be back at the window, counting out the real money for the people who earn it, in the building that runs on yours and refuses to call it that. The thin envelope rides home in your purse. Wedged between the rent and the gas bill, it is somehow expected to outlift, a single straight pin holding up an entire winter coat. You will be there before the doors open, as you always are. The pin does not know it is decorative. Neither, frankly, do you. There is a young man 3 windows down doing precisely what you do. Same drawer, same stamps, same passbooks, same balancing at 5 o'clock. The difference between the two of you is not the work. It is the word printed on the form in personnel. You are a teller. He is a management trainee. The tasks are identical and the titles are not. And that small gap in vocabulary is doing an enormous amount of quiet, heavy lifting, because the gap is exactly where they keep the difference in your pay. The new law was supposed to close this. Equal pay for equal work, the Congress said in 1963, in plain language, a sentence so clear it seemed for a moment to leave no room for cleverness. But cleverness always finds a room. The law says you cannot pay a man more for the same job. It does not say you cannot simply decide, on paper, that it is not the same job, and so the bank does the only sensible thing a clever institution can do when handed a rule it dislikes. It changes the labels and keeps the prices. He is a trainee, you see. He is learning. The teller window is merely a station on his journey upward, a thing he is passing through on his way to the desk, and the title and the authority, and the bank pays him more not for what he does today, but for what he is destined to become. You are not becoming anything. You are a teller, full stop, a complete and finished noun, and the bank pays you for the work which it has decided, separately and conveniently, is worth less. The beauty of the system, from a certain cold angle, is that nothing about it is technically a lie. He really is in a training program. You really are not. The fact that the program is open to him and closed to you, that you have done the job he is training for since before he shaved, that you will still be doing it when he is approving loans upstairs, none of that is written anywhere a lawyer could point to. The discrimination is not in any sentence you could read aloud. It is one typed word on a personnel form, his and yours filed in the same drawer, identical down to the line where the titles disagree. You train him, of course, because of course you do. You show young mister Avery the proof tickets and the coin count and the trick for spotting a kited check, and he is grateful, quick, and capable, and his title earns more than your 19 years, while you teach him the very skills the title pretends he is being taught. There is a word for this arrangement, and it is not in the personnel file either. The genius of titles is that they feel like facts. A trainee and a teller sound like two different things, naturally paid two different amounts, the way a captain and a private are different things. Strip the words off and watch the two of you work, the same hands doing the same tasks with the same accuracy, and the two different things turn out to be one thing wearing two name tags. Mr. Avery will move up, they always do. In a year his window will be empty and his nameplate will be on a desk, and a new young trainee will appear at the teller line for you to teach, and the cycle will turn over again, smooth and quiet and entirely legal, a conveyor belt that carries men upward through a job that carries women nowhere. You will wave him off warmly when he goes. You mean it warmly. The warmth and the injustice arrive, as ever, in the same breath. For now he is 3 windows down, balancing his drawer, and you could fix it for him in 30 seconds. Only the words are different, and the words, it turns out, are where they keep the money. His tape jams. You already know which key he missed. You let him find it himself. They have asked you to show the new young man how everything works, and you say yes, because saying yes is what you do. You teach him the draw. You teach him the stamps, the proof tickets, the trick for a fast coin count, the way to spot a check that is not right. You are good at this. You are patient and clear and thorough, and in about 8 months, when he has a desk and a title and the authority to approve things you will never be allowed to approve, you will both politely pretend this morning never happened. His name is Donald, and he is eager in the way of a man who has been told he is going somewhere. He listens. He takes notes in a small leather book the bank apparently issued along with his future. He calls you ma'am, which is sweet, and which somehow makes the whole thing worse, the courtesy of a junior officer toward the woman teaching him the job he will one day supervise her in. You start him on the coin, because coin is humbling, and a man should be humbled early. He tries to count a roll of nickels, and it bursts in his hands like a small silver firework, 40 cents skittering under 3 windows, and he goes red, and you tell him kindly that everyone does that once. You do not tell him you did it on your second day in 1944 and have not done it since. Some things a teacher keeps. The roll is a rite of passage, and the embarrassment is part of the lesson. You teach him to count bills the real way, pass the thumb, and his hands are clumsy at it, a city boy trying to learn a craftsman's grip, and you slow yourself down to a speed you have not used in 20 years so he can see the mechanism. This is the part that is genuinely good, the honest, simple, and satisfying part you would not trade. The trouble is only in the tense. Everything you are teaching him is true today and reversed by spring. Today you are the authority and he is the boy who exploded the nickels. By spring he will sign off on the overrides, approve the exceptions, initial the very corrections you will bring him, and your name will be the one under his on the form. You are teaching your way out of the senior position in the room, cheerfully, thoroughly, because thorough is the only way you know how to teach. Donald asks good questions, to his credit. He wants to know why the proof tickets go in transaction order, why the signature card matters more than the smile, why you stay until the draw balances no matter the hour. And you answer all of it, fully, holding nothing back, because the small mean option, teaching him badly, is not in you. You give him the whole craft. You give it freely. The bank counts on exactly this, on women too proud of the work to sabotage the men climbing over them on the strength of it. There is a moment, near the end of his first week, when he balances his drawer alone for the first time, and the tape agrees, and he looks up at you with a grin of pure relief. And you feel it too, the genuine pleasure of a teacher whose student got there. The feeling is real. It is also the exact feeling a ladder must have, if a ladder could feel anything, about the foot that is climbing it. You send him off to lunch, his little leather book full of your knowledge, his future full of your job. He thanks you, ma'am, again. You tell him to go easy on the nickels. And you turn back to your own window, where the line has built up while you are busy teaching the man who will outrank you by spring exactly how to do the work you will still be doing, faster and better, long after he has forgotten which drawer was yours. You are pregnant, and you have not told anyone at the bank yet, and the not telling has become a small daily project of its own. You choose the looser dress. You stand a certain way behind the counter. You know how this ends because you have watched it end for other women, quietly, with a card and a cake and a date circled on a calendar nobody calls a firing. There is no policy on a wall that says you must go. There does not need to be one. Everyone already knows the rule. The rule is unwritten, which is the cleverest place to keep a rule. Nothing in the personnel manual says a pregnant woman cannot count money. There is no sentence to point to, no clause to argue with, no line a person could underline and call unfair. There is only the understanding, total and silent, that a woman who is expecting will be leaving, and the understanding does all the work a written rule would do, while leaving no fingerprints on anything. So you manage the timing like a small intelligence operation. You want to choose the moment you tell them, rather than have the moment chosen for you by a dress that stops cooperating. You have a few weeks yet. You stand square to the counter so the angle is kind. You carry a cardigan you do not need, draped just so. You have become an expert in a concealment nobody should have to be expert in, and you are good at it, because you are good at everything this job has ever asked, including the things it should never ask. You think of Marjorie, who left in the spring, and the little party they threw her, the sheet cake with her name in blue icing, and the card everyone signed, wishing her well. It looked, from the outside, like a celebration. It was a celebration. It was also an exit, gently administered, and the gentleness was the point, because gentleness makes a thing impossible to protest. Nobody fired Marjorie. Marjorie simply, warmly, with cake, stopped being a teller. The distinction is everything, and it is nothing. The maddening part is that the work has not changed. You can still count a strap of 20s faster than anyone on the line. You can still bring a drawing clean, spot a bad check, soothe an angry man, carry the names of 100 regulars in your head. Your hands have not forgotten one thing they know. The bank is about to lose a trained, seasoned, and reliable teller for a reason that has nothing to do with whether she can do the job, and it will replace her with someone green and call the whole thing natural. Mrs. Caldwell from personnel has noticed, you think. She has that way of noticing without appearing to, and last week she rested a hand on your arm and asked, lightly, how you were feeling, and the lightness had a question folded inside it that you both pretended was just about the weather. You said you were feeling fine. You are, in fact, feeling fine. Feeling fine has never been the issue. The issue was decided long ago by people who never asked. There is no anger you are allowed to show, so you have put it somewhere, the way you put the 11 cents somewhere, the way you put the girls and the pin money somewhere, a quiet interior shelf that is getting, year by year, rather full. You will tell them when you choose. You will take the cake. You will smile in the photograph. And you will walk out of a job you were excellent at into a future the bank has decided is none of its concern the moment it stops being able to schedule you. For now the secret holds. You choose the looser dress in the morning and stand square to the counter and count the day's money with hands that betray nothing, growing a future under a cardigan while doing perfect work the bank has already, silently, decided to throw away. You handle thousands of dollars a day. You can count a strap of 20s faster than the manager can find his glasses. And when you decide you would like a credit card from the very bank you have worked at for 11 years, you are told you will need a man to sign for it. A husband, a father, someone. The institution that trusts you to reconcile its cash to the penny every evening does not trust you to owe it $40 without male supervision. You process the irony the way you process everything else here, silently, accurately, and on time. The new cards are the talk of the lobby. Bank Americard, Master Charge, little rectangles of plastic that let a man buy a refrigerator on Tuesday and argue about it with the bank in October. You have been ringing up the charge slips for months. You understand the product better than most of the customers carrying it, and the day you ask for one in your own name, the same product you have been quietly helping sell, the answer arrives with an apologetic smile and a request for a cosigner. The logic, if you can call it that, is that a woman is a credit risk in a way a man is not, because a woman might marry, or leave work, or have a child, or otherwise behave like a person whose life might change. A man's life, apparently, never changes. A man is a fixed and reliable star. You think of the men whose bad checks you have caught, the overdrafts you have watched bounce through this very branch, and you say none of it, mister. Sutter in new accounts handles your application, and he is not a villain, which is the exhausting part. He is embarrassed. He likes you. He has watched you work for years, and he knows, personally, that you are the most reliable, accurate, and trustworthy human being in the building. And he still slides the form back across the desk with the line for a husband's signature, because the rule is the rule, and the rule is bigger than his good opinion of you, and he murmurs that he is sorry, and he is, and it changes nothing. The arithmetic of it would be funny if it were happening to someone else. You are trusted with the bank's entire cash drawer, unsupervised, every day. You are trusted to decide whether to believe a stranger's check. The bank trusts you with everything it owns, right up until the moment you want to borrow $40 of it, at which point you become, suddenly, a person who needs a man to vouch for her. Widows have it worse, and divorcees worse still, women with no convenient man to produce, turned away from credit at the institutions they have banked with for decades, their long, perfect histories counting for exactly nothing against the absence of a signature in the right hand. You have watched it happen across your own counter, a respectable woman of 60 asked, in effect, to go find a man. The law has not caught up to this yet. There is no statute in this decade that says a bank may not refuse a woman credit for being a woman. That sentence does not exist to point to. It will not exist for years, and you do not know that yet, standing at the new accounts desk while Mr. Sutter looks anywhere but at you, holding a form that requires a husband you do not have for a debt you could repay in your sleep. You take the form home. You do not fill in the line. You put it in a drawer next to your own passbook, the savings you built a careful dollar at a time. The account this same bank was perfectly happy to let you open a loan because saving the money apparently requires no cosigner at all. Funny that. You can give the bank your money by yourself. You just cannot by yourself ever borrow it back. Every week, all year long, a steady parade of customers comes to your window with the same small ritual. $1, $2, $5 if it was a good week. You stamp the little club book, you log the deposit, and you send them off, and the money disappears into an account they are not allowed to touch until late November. This is the Christmas Club, and it is the most disciplined saving most of these families will do all year. You are the keeper of it, week after patient week, one rubber stamp standing between a family and December. The genius of the Christmas Club is that it works precisely because it is annoying to get at. The money goes in easily and comes out only once, on schedule, in time for the holidays, and the whole appeal is that a person cannot raid it on a Tuesday in July to cover a weak moment at the hardware store. It is a savings account designed by someone who understood human nature perfectly and forgave it nothing. You are the human face of that lovely small tyranny, smiling, stamping, refusing on the account's behalf to let anyone touch it early. Mrs. Petrakis brings in $2 every Friday and has never once missed, and she keeps her club book in a plastic sleeve to protect it, and she watches you stamp it with the satisfaction of a woman watching a brick laid in a wall she is building toward Christmas. You know, without being told, exactly what this account is for. It is the turkey, the tree, the one good toy for each child, the whole bright, expensive day, assembled $2 at a time across 50 patient, faithful, and identical Fridays by a woman who refuses to be caught short in December. The deposits are tiny and the discipline is enormous, and you respect it more than almost anything that crosses your counter. Nobody is getting rich here. The point is that a family that could not save a lump sum to save its life can save $1 a week if a woman with a stamp is there to receive it, and so the day gets paid for, and the children never know how close it was. Then comes the best week of the teller's year, the week in November when the club pays out, the accounts mature, the checks go out, and for a few days your window is a place people leave happier than they arrived, clutching a check that represents an entire year of small Fridays come due all at once. You hand over the proceeds of 50 acts of self-denial in a single envelope, and the customer's face does a thing faces rarely do at a bank, which is light up. You did not earn that money. You just kept it safe from them, on their own instructions, all year. The darker truth, which you keep to yourself, is that some of these families are saving for Christmas in a club because they cannot save any other way, and the club is less a luxury than a lifeline with tinsel on it. $1 a week is what is left after everything else, scraped together and handed across your counter as a small act of faith. You stamp it like it is the easiest thing in the world. You know it is not. Young Mr. Avery, watching from the next window, asks why anyone bothers. Why not just keep the dollar in a jar at home? And you tell him the jar at home gets opened, and the club does not. And he nods like he has learned something, which he has. The whole product is built on that one fact about people and their jars, which is exactly why they hand the dollar to you instead of trusting it to themselves. Mrs. Petrakis tucks her stamped book back into its plastic sleeve and wishes you a good weekend and heads out into the ordinary week. You log the deposit, you square the slip, $2, safe until the snow. The line moves up. On the table near the new account's desk, gleaming under the lights, sits a small appliance, and it is bait. Open a savings account today, and the toaster is yours, or the blanket, or the clock radio, or the set of steak knives, depending on what the bank is giving away this month. Your job, when a customer's eyes drift to the prize, is to close the deal. A new account, a deposit, and a kitchen appliance change hands, and the bank considers this a tremendous bargain, because it is. The premium, the bank calls it, which is a dignified word for a free toaster. The idea is simple and slightly shameless. People will move their life savings across town for an appliance worth a few dollars, and the bank knows this, and so it stacks the prizes by the door like a county fair and waits. A deposit of a few $100s, which the bank will lend out at a healthy rate for years, is purchased for the price of a chrome toaster. The math is so favorable it is almost rude. The toaster itself sits on the table radiating temptation, polished, bright and gleaming, turned at the angle most likely to catch a tired shopper's eye. You have watched grown men make a serious financial decision because a clock radio was involved. You have watched a woman move an account she had held for 9 years for a set of steak knives she did not need, and walk out delighted, and you understand completely, because the knives are real and present, and the interest rate is an abstraction you would need a pencil to feel. Mr. Delgado comes in to open an account for his granddaughter and spends a full minute deciding between the blanket and the toaster with the gravity of a man choosing a college, and you let him because the deciding is half the fun and the bank is winning either way. He picks the toaster. He carries it out under his arm like a trophy, beaming. Having handed the bank money it will quietly rent to a stranger for a decade, and the trophy cost the bank less than the first month's profit. Everybody, somehow, is happy. You are part salesperson now, which nobody mentioned when you learn the draw. You learn which premium moves, which customer. The practical ones want the appliance that does a thing. The grandparents want whatever photographs well under the tree. The young couples want the toaster because the toaster says kitchen, says home, says the life they are assembling, and a toaster that says all that for free is the easiest sale in the building. You read the customer, you point to the right prize, you close. The quiet comedy of it is that the bank, an institution of marble and brass and time-locked vaults, an edifice built to look like the most serious place on earth, is moving its core product with the exact tactics of a man giving away goldfish at a carnival. The whole solemn temple of trust runs, partly, on small appliances. The prizes change with the season and the competition. When the bank across the street offers blankets, your bank offers blankets and a clock. There is an arms race in housewares being waged over the heads of customers who think they are simply getting a nice toaster, and you are on the front line of it, the soldier who actually hands the toaster over, watching the strategy of giants play out, one steak knife set at a time. Mr. Delgado's account is open, his granddaughter is a saver now whether she knows it or not, and the toaster is gone from the table, which means you will need another from the back before the next eager customer arrives to be charmed by chrome. You log the deposit. You straighten the remaining prizes so they catch the light. The temple of finance gleams, the steak knives wait, and the next person through the door has no idea they have already, in their heart, decided. Some days they put you in the back, in the room the customers never see, at a grey machine the size of a small desk with 36 little pockets fanned out in front of you. This is the proof machine, and your job is to feed it checks. One hand pulls a check from the stack. The other hand keys in the amount. Fast, without looking, while your eyes are already on the next check. A good operator does well over 1,000 checks an hour, and the only thing the machine wants from you is to never, ever slow down. The room is all women, rows of them, bent over identical grey machines in a sound like soft mechanical rain, the clatter of keys and the thunk of checks dropping into pockets, hour after hour. There is no marble back here, no brass, no public to charm. The premiums and the greetings and the lacquered hair belong to the front of the house. Back here it is just the work. Loud, fast and relentless, the engine room beneath the temple. Your hands learn a rhythm your brain stops supervising. The left hand finds the check, the right hand keys the figure, the foot or thumb sends it to its pocket, and the whole loop repeats faster than thought, a small, relentless choreography you could perform in your sleep and sometimes feel you are. Your job is simply to keep it fed, accurately, at speed, like stoking a furnace that runs on arithmetic. The terror of the proof machine is the same terror as the draw, multiplied. Everything has to prove. The batches you run have to total exactly against the deposit slips that came with them, and if a batch is out, you find it, somewhere in 500 checks, because the Federal Reserve clearing does not wait and tomorrow's checks are already stacking up behind today's. Speed and perfection at once, all day, in a windowless room. The machine does not praise accuracy, it only notices its absence. Delphine has run a proof machine for 15 years and is genuinely magnificent at it. Her hands a brown blur over the keys, 1,400 checks an hour without a glance, and she does it while carrying on a conversation about her son's wedding, two entirely separate parts of her brain running in parallel. You watch her the way you would watch a concert pianist, except no one will ever applaud Delphine, because the whole point of Delphine is that the checks clear and nobody upstairs ever has to think about how. The machines are getting faster, and everyone in the room can feel what that means. The talk is of the new systems, the high-speed readers that scan the strange little numbers printed along the bottom of every check now and process them by the tens of thousands per hour, more in an afternoon than this entire room of women could do in a week. Nobody says the obvious thing out loud. The obvious thing sits in the room anyway, humming, patient, faster than all of you, the future quietly auditioning for your jobs. For now, though, the room still runs on hands. The numbers on the bottom of the check still need a human to handle the exceptions, the torn ones, the ones a customer wrote in fountain pen at an angle the machine cannot read, the human errors that only a human can chase down. So you bend over your grey machine and you feed it, check after check, 1,000 an hour, proving and proving, an invisible woman in an invisible room keeping the visible bank's promises true. At the end of the shift your batches prove, your totals agree, and the cleared checks go off to the reserve in the night, carrying the town's money to wherever money goes when it leaves. No customer will ever know your name or your speed or the ache in your right hand. Delphine packs up, still talking about the wedding, and the soft mechanical rain stops, machine by machine, until the engine room goes quiet for the night. A man reaches your window and says the words quietly, almost politely, and slides a note across the counter, and everything they trained you for arrives at once. You do not argue. You do not reach for anything sudden. You stay calm, you keep your hands where he can see them, and you give him the money, because the money is insured and you are not, and the bank has been very clear about which of those two things it would prefer to lose. The whole thing takes less time than a Christmas club deposit. The training is the strange part. In hindsight, they sat you down and taught you how to be robbed the way they taught you to count coin, calmly, procedurally, as one more skill of the job. Hand it over and let him go. So when it happens, and one day it happens, you are almost eerily composed, because the composure was installed in advance. The note says what these notes say. Your heart is doing something violent and private behind a face that has gone smooth, calm and pleasant, the same face you give a man cashing a paycheck, because the face is a tool and right now it is the most important tool you own. You move slowly. You speak softly. You give the man at your window exactly what he has asked for and not one motion more. The lobby does not even know at first. That is the uncanny thing about a real robbery. How quiet it is, how unlike the pictures. There is no shouting, no waving of anything, just a man and a teller having what looks like an ordinary transaction. Mrs. Petrakis is 3 feet away filling out a deposit slip and has no idea. The whole catastrophe fits inside the size and shape of a normal moment, which is exactly how the man wants it. And so, oddly, do you. You give him the loose cash from the top of the drawer, the working cash, the bills meant for exactly this, and you do not reach below for the reserve and you do not make any clever decision, because clever decisions are how tellers get hurt. He takes the money. He tells you, sometimes, to have a nice day, which is a detail nobody believes when you repeat it later, and then he turns and walks, not runs, out the door, into the ordinary afternoon, and then your knees find out what your face has been hiding. The second he is gone, the composure cracks and the fear arrives late, all of it at once, the way it was never allowed to arrive while he was standing there. You are shaking. You sit down, finally, on the stool you never use. Ruth is already there with a hand on your shoulder, because Ruth has been robbed too, years ago, and knows the exact shape of this particular delayed terror, the one that waits politely until the danger is gone before it lets you feel it. The police come. You tell them the height, the hands, the voice, the coat. Every detail your trained eye filed while your trained face smiled, and you are a far better witness than you feel, because the observing was part of the procedure, and the procedure held even when you did not. The draw is short now, officially, for the first time in your career through no fault of your counting, written up not against your character but against a man in a coat who said the quiet words and walked out. You will be back at the window tomorrow. That is the part nobody asks about. There is no long leave for this, no real acknowledgement beyond a kind word and a report to file. The line still forms, and the same drawer that was emptied at gunpoint, more or less, will need to balance again by 5. You will count it with steady hands and greet the next stranger with the same warm face, and only you will know it is also the face you wore the day you were robbed. There is a button somewhere at your station, or a small pedal near the floor by your right shoe, and you go your whole career hoping you never have to use it. It is the silent alarm. Press it, and no bell rings, no light flashes, nothing changes in the room, but somewhere a signal goes out and the police begin to move. You learned exactly where it is on your first day, and you have never once touched it on purpose. And the not touching is its own quiet discipline you carry all day without thinking about it. The silence of it is the whole design. A loud alarm would tell the robber he has been caught and turn a quiet theft into a dangerous corner, so the alarm says nothing at all. It is a scream that only the police can hear, sent from under a counter by a woman whose face does not change while she sends it. The genius and the cruelty of it sit side by side. You can call for help with your foot while your hands keep handing over money and your mouth keeps wishing the man a pleasant afternoon. You are aware of the pedal at all times, the way you are aware of a sore tooth, a small constant background fact your body keeps track of even when your mind is busy. Your right shoe knows where it is. It has memorized the distance. In the ordinary course of a Tuesday, you would no sooner press it than you would shout in church. The rule is you press it only when it is safe to press it, which is its own small riddle. Not while the man can see your hands moving toward anything, not in a way that telegraphs. You press it low and slow and invisible, or you press it the instant he turns to leave, the timing itself a judgment you are trusted to make in the worst seconds of your working life, by a bank that does not trust you to approve a $40 loan. The contradictions of this job have stopped surprising you. They have not stopped accumulating. Gwen, who trains the new girls, drills the pedal the way a stewardess drills the exits, calmly, repeatedly, in a flat voice that makes the unthinkable routine. "Find it with your foot now," she says. "Do not look down. Press it only when." And the new girls practice locating it blind, toes searching the floor, faces composed, rehearsing a moment they pray never comes. And most of them, mercifully, will go a whole career and never press it for real. Most of them. Not all. The bank keeps a pedal under every station precisely because not all. The false alarms are their own small comedy. The times a knee bumps the button or a foot drifts, and suddenly 2 patrol cars arrive at a perfectly calm lobby where Mrs. Petrakis is making a deposit, and nothing whatsoever is wrong. Everyone is embarrassed. The officers are gracious. A report is filed. And the lesson, relearned, is that the thing is hair-triggered and serious and not to be near with an idle foot, which sends you back to the old careful discipline of knowing exactly where it is so you can reliably leave it alone. The pedal is a small, silent and patient machine for the worst day, sitting quietly under the best days, year after year, waiting. It does not care that you are good at your job. It does not reward all the times you did not need it. It simply waits by your right shoe, patient as the time lock, a single silent option held in reserve for a man who has not yet walked in and may never. You hope he never does. You keep your foot near it anyway. That is the discipline. And you carry it home without realizing, and only notice it is gone on the rare evening you sit somewhere with nothing under your foot at all. There is a clock built into the door of the vault, and the clock, not the manager, not the president, not you, decides when the vault opens. This is the time lock, and it is gloriously, infuriatingly indifferent to circumstance. Before 9 o'clock the vault is shut to the entire human race, and after closing it is shut again, and no amount of urgency, authority, or pleading changes its mind. To get into it at all, 2 people with 2 separate keys have to stand there together, because the bank trusts no single person, including the people it trusts with everything else. The time lock is the one employee at the bank with no boss. The manager can be charmed, the rules can be bent, a senior officer can pull rank on almost anything in the building, but the clock in the vault door answers to nobody. It was set yesterday for today, and it will do exactly what it was told, and not 1 second more. And if you find yourself needing cash from it at the wrong moment, you may stand there with all your competence and all your seniority and watch the door decline to acknowledge you. It is the most powerful thing in the bank, and it has never once made coffee. There is a real beauty to a machine that cannot be reasoned with. A guard can be threatened, a lock with a key can be picked or stolen toward. But a vault that physically will not open until a time that has not yet arrived offers a robber nothing to work with, no person to frighten into compliance, because the one entity that could open it early does not exist. The bank discovered, long ago, that the safest guardian of money is not a brave man but an indifferent clock, and it built indifference into the steel. The dual control is the other half of the ritual, and it is a quiet little insult dressed as procedure. 2 keys, 2 people, neither able to open the vault alone. Mr. Dempsey has 1 key and Mrs. Caldwell has the other, and the vault opens only when both of them turn at once. 2 trusted adults required to stand together because the bank has decided that no single human being, however senior, however spotless, should ever be alone with everything. It is not personal. It is precisely impersonal, which is somehow worse, and also, you admit, wiser. You watch the morning ceremony of it most days. Dempsey and Caldwell arrive at the vault, exchange a small nod, insert their separate keys, and turn them together like a pair of officers launching something, and the great, heavy, and patient door, the clock having finally relented, swings its enormous weight open with a sound like the building clearing its throat. There is a theatre to it the public never sees, 2 people and a clock performing the daily resurrection of the cash, the whole bank waiting on a negotiation between steel and time. You have come to respect it, the way you respect a thing that cannot be flattered. In a building full of unwritten rules that bend for the right man and close for the wrong woman, the vault is the one authority that is exactly as advertised, applying its indifference to everyone without favour. The manager calls you one of the girls. The customers explain banking to you. The clock in the vault door, alone in the whole institution, treats you precisely the same as it treats the president, which is to say, not specially, which is to say, fairly, which is to say it makes you wait like everyone else. At closing, the door swings shut again, the keys turn, the clock takes over for the night, and the money goes to sleep behind a guardian that cannot be reasoned with, bribed, or charmed until morning. Dempsey and Caldwell pocket their separate keys and go their separate ways. The bank is sealed. And the one truly incorruptible thing in the building ticks quietly in the dark, holding the line until 9, answering to no one at all. A car pulls up to the window outside, and now you are banking through a pane of glass and a metal drawer that slides out into the weather. The newest branches have something even stranger, a pneumatic tube, a fat canister that you load with cash and paperwork and send whooshing out to the customer's car with a thump. You never touch the person. You serve a car, a whole transaction, a deposit, a withdrawal, a stamped passbook, completed between you and a vehicle idling in the cold. The human being inside it, just a hand and a voice in a speaker. The drive-in window is the future arriving in the most American shape imaginable, which is the shape of not having to leave your car. People love it instantly. They can bank in their pajamas, in their curlers, with a back seat full of groceries and a baby asleep, and they never have to find a parking spot or cross the cold lobby or be seen. You hand the convenience out through a sliding drawer all day, and it is genuinely a wonder, and it also quietly rearranges your entire job around a windshield. The glass changes everything between you and the customer. Inside, at the counter, you have your whole instrument, the warm greeting, the remembered name, the read on a nervous face. Out here you have a speaker that crackles and a drawer that sticks and a customer reduced to a disembodied hand and a voice asking you to repeat yourself. The small human service that is half your real value gets flattened against a pane of bulletproof glass, and what is left is the transaction, fast and clean and slightly cold, banking with the warmth turned down. The pneumatic tube is the part that delights everyone, including, secretly, you. You load the canister, you seat it in the chamber, you press the button, and the bank inhales it with a great soft whoomp and fires it out to the island where the car waits, a little brass shuttle, roughly the size of a thermos, rocketing the customer's money across 30 feet of open air on a cushion of pressurized wind. It thumps into the far end. The driver opens it like a present. The whole thing is faintly ridiculous, absurd, and marvelous money delivered by indoor weather. Mr. Halloran comes through the drive in every payday in a car you can hear before you can see it, and he conducts his entire banking life through the speaker with the cheerful volume of a man who assumes the glass makes him hard to hear, which it does. So the arrangement works. You send his cash out in the canister, he sends his deposit back, and the two of you have a relationship conducted entirely through a tube, warm enough in its way, two people who would not recognize each other standing up, but who know each other perfectly well. At 30 feet through a windshield, the weather is now part of your job in a way it never was at the marble counter. Rain sheets down the glass. Wind drives cold up through the drawer mechanism. In winter, the canister comes back with snow on it, and the customers are warm in their cars while the cold of the outdoors leaks steadily into your station through every seam, so that the person providing the cozy convenience is, reliably, the only one in the exchange who is freezing. The customer is in a heated car. You are in a draft. The convenience flows one direction. The canister whooshes back into your hands, the next car rolls up, a voice crackles a request through the speaker, and you reach for the cash with cold fingers and a warm tone the glass mostly swallows. The future is convenient and slightly chilly and shaped like a windshield. You send the money out on its cushion of wind, you wave at a hand you will never shake, and the car pulls away into the weather you are quietly absorbing on its behalf. In the morning, before the lobby fills, you deal with the deposits that came in while everyone was asleep. There is a slot in the outside wall of the bank, and into it, after closing, the local merchants drop a locked bag holding the day's cash from the diner, the hardware store, the dress shop. The night depository, they call it. You retrieve the bags, you open them under the watchful arrangement the bank insists on, and you count out a grocer's entire Saturday while he is still home in bed, trusting a slot in a wall anew. The night depository is a small marvel of trust engineering. A merchant who closes his shop long after the bank goes dark does not want to keep a day's cash in a register overnight, an open invitation to anyone who knows the neighborhood. So the bank gives him a key and a heavy zippered bag, and he drops the bag down a chute in the outside wall after hours, and it falls into the locked chest inside, and his money sleeps safe in the bank without a single banker ever having been awake to receive it. It is a mailbox for money, and like the mail, the whole thing runs on people behaving. The opening of the bags is a ceremony of two, because of course it is, because nothing involving money at this bank is ever entrusted to one person alone. You and another teller go to the chest together, you log each bag, and you open them in view of each other, two sets of eyes on every count, so that if a bag is light there is never a question of who was alone with it. The dual control follows the cash everywhere, a constant quiet reminder that the bank's deepest faith is in arithmetic and witnesses, never in any single trusted soul. Inside each bag is a small portrait of a business and its night. The diner's bag is fat with crumpled singles and heavy with coin, the tips and the pie money, smelling faintly of the grill. It slumps on the counter like a small, tired animal that has had a very long Saturday. The dress shop's bag is tidy, checks and clean bills in rubber bands, a careful proprietor's careful day. You count each one against the deposit slip the merchant tucked inside, and you stamp it credited, and a whole day of someone else's labour passes through your hands before that someone has finished his coffee. Mr. Castellano from the hardware store writes his deposit slips in a cramped pencil hand and is always, blessedly, exactly right, his bag totalling exactly against his own figures week after week, a man who clearly does his own proving before he ever drops the bag down the chute. You have never met him at this hour. You have never met him at all, really, just his handwriting and his careful coin, and yet you know him, the way you know all of them, through the honest evidence of a bag that always balances. The trust of the thing still strikes you on the quiet mornings. A man you have never spoken to put a day's earnings into a slot in a wall in the dark and went home to sleep, certain that in the morning a woman he could not name would open it, count it honestly, and credit it true. And she does. You do. The whole arrangement, the slot, the chute, the locked chest, the two tellers, exists to make that ordinary little faith safe enough to keep extending, night after night, all over town. The last bag is counted, logged, and credited. The chest is locked again to wait for tonight, and the lobby is beginning to stir for the day. You have already handled thousands of dollars that nobody handed you, balanced a dozen strangers' nights against a dozen pencil slips, and credited a town's worth of small businesses before the first customer walks in. The slot in the wall waits patient and dark for the next round of sleeping money. You go and open your own drawer. The man from the hardware store needs change. A lot of it. Rolls of pennies and nickels and dimes to fill his register drawer for the week. So you become, for the next several minutes, a small factory. You count coin into paper wrappers, you crease the ends, you strap the bills into neat banded bricks, and you build him the exact assortment he asked for. It is physical work, more physical than anyone watching from the lobby imagines, and your fingers know the weight of a full roll the way a baker's hands know dough. Coin is heavy in a way paper money never is. A drawer of cash you can carry on one hand like a tray. A bag of coin pulls at your shoulder and reminds you all the way to the counter that money, before it was an abstraction, was metal, and metal has opinions about gravity. You lift it, you sort it, you wrap it, and by the end of a heavy change order, your forearms have done a quiet workout. No one would ever guess from the pleasant woman in the pressed dress smiling over the till. The wrapping itself is a craft with a rhythm. 40 pennies, 50 nickels, 50 dimes, each roll a fixed congregation that has to be exactly right, and your fingers count them in groups without your eyes, sweeping them into the paper tube, folding the ends with 2 quick creases, building a tidy paper cartridge of money roughly the size of a cigar. A good roll is firm, square, and honest. A sloppy roll is a small confession that you are rushing, and you do not make sloppy rolls because a roll that comes up short is your name on a shortage all over again. Mr. Castellano, the same careful man whose night bag always balances, comes in person on Mondays for his change, and he tells you the assortment the way a doctor recites a prescription, 10 in pennies, 20 in nickels, the rest in quarters, and you build it while he watches with the quiet approval of one precise person observing another. He counts nothing when you hand it over. He has never had to. The not counting is the highest compliment a careful man can pay, and you both know it. The currency you strap into bricks, hundreds of singles banded into firm bundles, and there is a deep, small satisfaction in a stack of bills made square and tight, the loose chaos of paper money disciplined into something you could build a wall with. Your hands have done this so many thousands of times that the strap goes on in a single motion, snap and twist and done. A gesture as automatic as breathing and considerably more reliable. The whole change order is a reminder that you are not, despite the marble and the brass, working a clean, abstract job of numbers in a ledger. You are handling the actual physical money of an actual physical town, the literal metal that will ring in the hardware store's register all week. Money is a thing. You handle the thing. The men in the offices upstairs deal in figures, in rates and balances and decisions. The money long since turned to numbers on paper. Down here at the window it is still coin and currency, weight and metal, paper that creases and cuts and tires the hands that count it. You build Mr. Castellano his bricks and rolls, you slide the heavy assortment across, and your shoulders know, even if the ledger never will, exactly how much a week of a town's small change weighs. He loads it into his canvas bag, hoists it with the practiced grunt of a man who also knows what coin weighs, and heads back to his store to fill the register you just stocked. Your fingers are grey with the faint dirt that comes off handled coin, the particular grime of money that has been everywhere. You wipe them on the cloth you keep for exactly this. The next customer is already at the window. Your hands, briefly rested, get ready to count again. A customer is going on a trip or wants something safe for a grandchild, and so you reach for the products that are not just plain savings, traveller's checks, to be signed once now and once later, like a small contract with the customer's own future self. Savings bonds, sold at a discount and worth more if you can bear to leave them alone for years. Money orders, for the people who do not have a checking account and need to send money like a letter. You sell all of it across the same counter, in the same 8 seconds you give everything else. The traveller's checks are the most theatrical of the lot, and you have a little routine for them. You explain the trick of the double signature. Sign each one now in front of you, sign it again when you spend it, and the matching is what makes it safe. Lose them, and the company replaces them, which feels like magic to a customer who has only ever known that losing cash means the cash is gone. You watch a nervous traveller relax in real time as the safety of it sinks in. Money that cannot be stolen because it only works in their own hand. The savings bonds are an exercise in patience sold as a gift. You sell a bond for less than its face, and it creeps toward its full value over years, slow as a tree, and the whole virtue of it is that it punishes you for cashing it early. Grandparents love them for exactly this reason. A bond cannot be spent on a Tuesday whim the way cash can, which makes it the perfect present for a grandchild whose parents you do not entirely trust with a windfall, a gift wrapped in a delay. Missus. Ferraro buys a bond for each grandchild every birthday, and she signs the little register in a careful looping hand and tells you each child's name as if you might bond with them too, and you write the names incorrectly because the names matter to her and therefore they matter to you. She is building, one bond a year, a small, slow, and patient fortune none of the children can touch until they are old enough to thank her, by which point, she notes dryly, she may not be here to be thanked. You tell her she will be. Neither of you is sure. The money orders are the quiet ones, and they tell you the most about who is standing at your window. A money order is for a person who needs to send money somewhere and does not have a checking account to send it from, which usually means a person for whom a checking account is a luxury or an impossibility. You sell a money order to a woman sending rent to a landlord, to a man sending support to a family in another state, to people moving money the careful, expensive way because the easy way was never offered to them. These products are how the bank reaches past the simple savers into every corner of how money actually moves through ordinary lives, the trips and the gifts and the rent sent across state lines. And you are the whole counter for all of it, the single point where a town's travels and presents and obligations get turned into paper that is safe to carry, mail, or keep. The bank sells a dozen instruments. You are the one who hands every one of them across. Mrs. Ferraro tucks her grandchildren's bonds into her purse, a year's worth of patience for each of them, and wishes you well. And the anxious woman with the money order counts her change one more time and heads off to mail the rent. You square your stack of blank forms. Each one is tracked, each one a number someone will ask about, each one a small piece of someone's life about to be carried somewhere it needs to go. Something new is showing up at your window, a small rectangle of plastic with a man's name pressed into it in raised letters. The credit card has arrived, and with it comes a whole new ritual you are learning on the fly. The charge slips, the imprint, the strange idea that a customer can buy something now and quietly agree to fight about it with the bank later. You watch people fall in love with this idea in real time. You also watch, with a banker's flat eye, exactly how the bank intends to make its money on the romance. The card itself is a marvel of nerve. There is no money in it, no metal, no paper, nothing of value at all, just a name and a number stamped into plastic, and yet a man can carry it into a store and walk out with a television on the strength of it. The whole thing runs on a promise, the bank's promise to the store that the money is good, and the man's promise to the bank that he will square it later. You have spent your whole career making people prove their money is real. The card is built on the opposite idea entirely. The machinery of it is almost comically physical for so modern a thing. The store presses the raised letters of the card against a slip-through carbon paper with a little sliding device that goes ka-chunk, and the imprint is the whole transaction, the customer's name pressed into a form he signs without, you notice, reading. That car chunk is the sound of money being spent that does not exist yet, and people make it now with the casual ease of a sound they have already stopped hearing. Young couples take to it fastest, and you watch them discover the terrible magic of it across your counter. Mr. and Mrs. Dunhill, married a year, glow about their new card the way they glowed about the toaster, except the toaster could not put them in debt. They do not see the cliff yet. They see only that the want and the having have suddenly been welded together, that the weight between deciding and owning, the weight that the Christmas Club was built entirely around, has been quietly abolished for a fee they have not bothered to calculate. The fee is the whole point, and you understand it with a clarity the cardholders carefully avoid. The bank does not lend money out of kindness. It lends it at a rate, and the genius of the card is that it invites a man to borrow constantly, thoughtlessly, a few dollars at a time, in moments of small desire he would never walk into a bank to request a loan for. Nobody asks the bank to finance a dinner out. The card lets them do it without asking, and the bank collects on the not asking, month after agreeable month. You think of the woman from last week, refused a card of her own without a man to sign, and the irony arranges itself neatly. The bank is desperate to put this borrowing machine into the hands of every man it can reach, pressing cards on people who never requested them, while turning away the most reliable woman in the county because she lacks a husband. The card is freedom, apparently, and freedom apparently comes with a gender printed on it in raised letters. Mr. Dunhill signs his slip without reading it. pockets his plastic, and heads off to want things more conveniently than any generation before him. You file the carbon. You square the slips. The future is light and plastic and goes ka-chunk, and it is very pleased with itself, and you have read the fine print it was printed on, and you keep what you know, as ever, behind a pleasant and entirely professional face. He comes in once a week, and every week he explains banking to you, how interest works, in case you were unsure, what a deposit is, slowly, so you can follow. He is not unkind, and he is not in a hurry, and he has no idea that you have balanced this branch's cash to the penny more evenings than he has been alive, that you can spot a forged endorsement at a glance, that the entire smooth-running machine he mistakes for simple is running because you are running it. You nod, you smile, you count his money correctly, again. Mr. Whitfield is his name, and he is not a bad man. This is important to establish, because it would be easier if he were, a villain you could dislike cleanly. Mr. Whitfield is pleasant, patient, and entirely sincere, and that sincerity is the exact problem, because he genuinely believes he is being helpful, sharing his worldly knowledge with a nice young woman who surely benefits from a man's clearer understanding of money. He is doing you a kindness. That is what makes it so very hard to bear. The trick, you have learned, is to let him. There is no profit in correcting him. A man this certain does not experience a woman's correction as information. He experiences it as rudeness, as a girl getting above herself, and the cost of the lesson would land on you, not him, in the form of a complaint to the manager about the teller with the attitude. So you nod along to a lecture on your own profession, delivered by an amateur, and you have gotten so practiced at the nodding that you can do it while mentally balancing your drawer. There is a particular flavour of tired that comes from being explained to, all day, by people who know less than you about the thing they are explaining. It is not the work that wears you down. The work you love, it is the steady drip of it, the man who slows his voice to define a deposit, the one who double-checks your arithmetic on a scrap of paper, the one who says "good girl" when you slide his correct change across the marble. Each one is small. There are so many of them. The shelf inside where you keep these things is, by now, quite full. The deep joke of it, the one you keep entirely to yourself, is that you know exactly how much you know, and so does the bank, in its way. The bank trusts you with its cash and its judgment and its reputation precisely because you are this good. It simply declines to mention this to Mr. Whitfield, or to pay you as though it were true, or to print it on any nameplate. Your competence is an open secret the institution keeps and the customers never guess, and you carry it, fully aware, behind the smile. So you let Mr. Whitfield finish his weekly tutorial. You thank him for explaining it. You mean the thank you the way you mean most things at this counter, which is to say it is real warmth wrapped around something the warmth is protecting, and he leaves satisfied that he has done his small good deed for the nice girl at the bank. He will be back next Tuesday to teach you what a deposit is. You will have spent the intervening week being trusted with everything he thinks you do not understand. You count his money out, correct to the dollar as ever, and slide it across with a smile that gives away nothing. He tucks it away, pleased with himself and with you, and heads off into a world he is sure he understands better than the women who run it. You pick up the next passbook. You find the last stamped line and bring the stamp down on it. One clean, hard thunk, the single sound in the whole marble building that says exactly what it means and explains itself to nobody. The line moves up. Lunch is not a time so much as a negotiation. The window cannot be left unstaffed. The lobby cannot be made to wait. So the four of you work out, every single day, who eats when and who covers whose station while they are gone. It is a small piece of choreography you perform without a manager's help, because the manager has gone to lunch whenever he likes. You learn to eat a sandwich in 12 minutes. You learn to balance someone else's pending transactions in your head while they are out. The line does not pause for hunger. The lunch hour, so called, is the busiest stretch of the day, which is the central cruelty of it, because the whole working town comes to bank on its own lunch break, and so the moment you most need to step away is the exact moment you least can. The line is longest from noon to 1. You eat at 11, or you eat at 2, in the staggered shifts you have all worked out among yourselves, because if all four of you ate at noon, the bank would simply have no one at the windows during its busiest hour, a fact management has noticed and declined to solve. The negotiation is daily and entirely female, conducted in the small private language of women who have covered for each other for years. Ruth has a doctor's appointment, so she eats first today, and you cover her window. Carlene's drawer is in the middle of a tricky transaction, so she waits. Edith, who has seniority and uses it gently, takes the awkward 2 o'clock slot without being asked because she knows the younger women have children to think about at the early end. None of this is scheduled. All of it is arranged, fairly, in about 90 seconds, by the people it affects. Covering a colleague's window is its own small skill, because you are now running 2 jobs from one body, your own customers and hers, her regulars who do not know you, her pending items you have to hold in your head. It is doable because you are all good, and it is invisible because you are all good, and the bank experiences it as the lobby simply continuing to run, which it credits to nothing in particular. The men do not negotiate their lunches, you have noticed, because the men do not have to. An officer goes to lunch when it suits him, for as long as it suits him, and the windows keep running because the women have arranged among themselves that they will. His freedom to take a real lunch is built directly on your willingness to stagger yours. He does not see this, naturally. He sees only that the bank is always covered, the way he sees that the coffee is always made, as a feature of the building rather than the labour of the people in it. And yet there is something you would not trade in the little system, which is the quiet, daily and unspoken solidarity of it. The lunch negotiation is one of the few parts of the day that belongs entirely to the women, run by you, for you, with a fairness the rest of the institution does not extend. Nobody pulls rank cruelly. Nobody leaves a colleague stranded at a long line on purpose. You look after each other in the small daily way of people who understand that no one above you is going to, and the looking after is real, and it is yours. It is your turn at last, at 2:05, and Edith waves you off to the back room with a flick of her hand that means go, eat, I have it, you go. You eat your sandwich in 12 minutes, standing, one ear on the lobby, and you come back before you are missed to take your window again so Edith can finally take hers. The line never noticed the handoff. That was the whole point. That is always the whole point. There is a stool, somewhere, in theory, but the rule, spoken or merely understood, is that a teller stands. Pla. You stand to greet, you stand to count, you stand through the slow hour after lunch when the lobby is empty and there is nothing to do but stand. By the middle of the afternoon, your feet have filed a formal complaint. By 4, the heels have become a personal enemy. The marble floor, beautiful and cold and built to impress, gives back absolutely nothing to the body of the person required to stand on it all day. The standing is not about the work. That is the part that gives it away. There is no transaction that cannot be done sitting, no count that requires you upright, no deposit that goes faster on aching feet. The standing is about appearance, about a teller looking ready, attentive, available, presenting the right picture to a customer who might walk in at any moment and must find you on your feet and eager rather than resting like a person with a body. You are furniture that must always look like it just stood up to help. The marble is the enemy and the marble is the point. It says wealth and permanence to the customer the instant he walks in, cold, grand, and gleaming, and it transmits that same coldness straight up through your thin soles into your knees and your back, hour after hour. The bank chose the floor to impress the public, and the public is impressed, and the impression is paid for, in full, by the legs of the women standing on it, a cost the architect never put in any drawing. Gwen, who has bad veins now after 20 years on the marble, has a trick of shifting her weight foot to foot in a small, slow rhythm that keeps the blood moving without ever looking like fidgeting, and she taught it to you the way the women teach each other everything, quietly, without ceremony, a piece of survival passed down the line. You do it now without thinking, the small private dance of a woman not allowed to sit, and the customers never notice, and your feet are marginally less ruined at 5 because of a thing no manual will ever contain. The shoes are a conspiracy all their own. Required to be heels, required to be neat, required to be exactly the footwear least compatible with 8 hours of standing on stone, chosen for the line they give the leg, and not one thought for the foot inside them. You have a second pair under the counter for when the first becomes unbearable, and you switch them in the slow hour like a soldier changing a dressing, and neither pair is comfortable, and comfortable was never on the list of things the shoes were asked to be. By the end of the day, the standing has accumulated into something you carry home in your whole lower body, the particular deep ache of a person who has been vertical on stone since before the doors opened. You will soak your feet tonight. You will do it again tomorrow. The men in the offices have chairs, good ones, and sit in them all day making the decisions, and no one has ever suggested that sitting makes them look unready, because the rule about standing was never really a rule about readiness. It was a rule about who gets a chair. The last customer leaves, the doors lock, and only now, the public safely gone, may you finally sink onto the stool you are not allowed to use all day, to prove your cash sitting down at last. The relief is enormous and a little absurd, a whole body's gratitude for a stool. You count your draw from the blessed stool, feet throbbing their complaint, and you understand that the chair was always there, the whole time, withheld for no reason but appearance, offered back to you only once there was no one left to impress. A young couple sits down across from you to open their first account together, nervous and a little proud, and you reach for the script. You explain the minimum balance, the interest, the difference between savings and checking as if it were the difference between two kinds of weather. You fill in the forms, you take the first deposit, you slide the toaster across, and you watch them feel, for a moment, like people who have arrived somewhere. You have done this 1,000 times. They have done it once. You give them the version where it feels like the first. The new account is a small rite of passage, and you have learned to treat it as one, even though for you it is a Tuesday. To them, it is a step into adulthood, into permanence, into the marble world of people who have an account at the bank, and they have dressed a little for it, and they are nervous in the specific way of people doing a grown-up thing for the first time. You meet the nervousness with a warmth calibrated exactly to it. The forms are routine. The moment, for them, is not, and you honour the moment. The Harlows are barely out of their wedding, you gather, the ink still drying on one set of vows as they sign up for another, and they keep glancing at each other for reassurance as you walk them through the choices. He wants to know about interest. She wants to know about the minimum balance, the practical one, the question of a woman already doing the household math in her head. You answer both fully because both questions are good, and because she is the one who will actually run this account, and you both know it without saying so. The toaster, of course, makes its appearance, and the Harlows light up at it exactly as the bank intended, the free thing turning an administrative act into a small windfall. You slide it across with the little flourish you have developed, and for a moment, they are not signing forms. They are winning a prize, starting a home. The chrome catches the light. The deal closes itself. The bank's oldest trick works on its newest customers, gently, again. You fill in the signature cards, and here, quietly, the era stamps itself onto the form. The account goes in his name with her name added, the structure of it assuming, in its small printed way, exactly whose money this is understood to be. Even when she is the one who will balance it every month for the next 40 years, you write what the form requires. You have opinions about the form. The form does not ask for your opinions, and the Harlows do not notice the architecture they are signing into, and you let it pass, because today is their day, and the fight is not yours to start at their table. There is a real tenderness in it underneath the routine, and you have not lost it, even after 1,000 of these. Two young people trusting an institution, and trusting you with the first money they have pooled together, hopeful, eager, and afraid, building the first room of a shared life out of a savings account and a toaster. You were these people once, at a counter, with someone, opening a first account before you knew what you know now. You remember the hope. You hand it back to them, undimmed, on purpose. The account is open, the first deposit recorded, the passbook stamped with its very first line, that clean, satisfying thunk christening the whole enterprise. The Harlows gather their toaster and their booklet and their new grown-up status and head out into their life, and they will remember this morning, vaguely, as the day they opened their account, and they will never think of you again. You square the forms. You did that. You gave two strangers a good beginning, and the beginning is real, even if for you it was simply the work. A stranger in a plain suit walks in unannounced, shows the manager something, and the temperature of the whole branch changes. It is a bank examiner, and one of the things he can do, without warning, is have your drawer counted down to the last coin while you stand there. There is no preparing for it, which is the point. It is a surprise test of the one thing you are never allowed to fail, and the only defense against it is the thing you do anyway, every day, correctly, which is be exactly right about the money. You know him for what he is before anyone says a word. By the way, the manager straightens and the assistant manager finds something urgent to do, and a particular stillness settles over the officers. An examiner arriving unannounced is the bank being audited by the outside, the institution itself put briefly on trial, and the men who spend their days untroubled by anyone's authority are suddenly, visibly, troubled by his. You watch them rearrange themselves around the stranger, and you keep counting your customer's deposit, because your work does not stop for anyone's nerves but your own. The examiner's surprise count is a thing of cold beauty, procedurally. He picks a drawer, yours perhaps, and your cash is counted then and there against your records. No warning, no chance to tidy, the exact, naked, and unforgiving truth of your station laid open to a man whose entire job is finding the gap between what is claimed and what is real. It is the proving of cash you do every evening, except performed by a stranger, in daylight, with your livelihood on the table instead of your dinner hour. And here is the quiet triumph the men in their visible nerves will never quite appreciate. You are not afraid of the count. You have nothing to tidy because nothing is untidy. Your drawer balances at the close of every single day, to the penny, by the discipline of 1,000 evenings, and so the examiner's surprise holds no surprise for you. He can count whenever he likes. The answer will be the same answer it always is, the answer your own careful hands made true hours before he ever walked in. Mr. Eldridge, the examiner, is courteous and unhurried, and gives away nothing. A bloodhound in a necktie, and he counts your drawer with the flat attention of a man who has caught people before and expects, on the percentages, to catch someone today. His fingers move through your cash, his eyes check it against your figures, and you stand there composed, because you have nothing to fear from arithmetic. Arithmetic having always been the one place you are allowed to be unimpeachably right. The count comes out exact. He notes it without comment and moves on. The examiner finds the branch in good order, which is to say he finds your drawers balanced and your records clean, and the whole humble foundation of the institution exactly as solid as it claims to be. He will write that down somewhere, in a report the officers will be relieved by and you will never see, and the relief will be credited upward, to management, to the men, to the good running of the bank, and not one line of it will mention that the soundness he certified was assembled penny by penny by the people he counted. Mr. Eldridge thanks you for your time with the same flat courtesy and moves to the next window, and the temperature of the branch slowly returns to normal as he works his way down the line and finds, at each station, the same boring perfection. The officers exhale. Your drawer was right, as it is always right. You count the next deposit into it, one bill at a time, building tomorrow's perfect answer hours before anyone upstairs thinks to come down and ask the question. Watch your own hands when a thick strap of 20s lands in front of you, because they have learned to do something the rest of you barely follows. The bills riffle past your thumb in a soft brown blur, and somewhere behind your eyes a count is running, clean and certain, faster than you could say the numbers out loud. This is a real skill, built over years, the kind of competence nobody mentions in your wage. The customer sees a blur and a total. You see every bill, and you are never wrong, because never wrong is the entire job. The count lives in your hands now, not your head, which is the strange thing nobody tells you when you start. In the beginning you counted the way everyone counts, 1, 2, 3, slow and conscious, watching each bill. Somewhere across the years that moved, the counting sank down out of your thinking mind and into your fingers, until now your hands do it on their own and simply report the answer up to you, the way you do not consciously balance while walking. You have outsourced arithmetic to your own thumb. The technique is a small physical art. The rubber finger cot grips the corner, the thumb releases the bills one at a time in a steady riffle, and the rhythm itself does the counting. Each tick of the corner a number, the whole motion smooth and fast and weirdly beautiful to watch. A customer will sometimes just stare, hypnotized, as $200 flickers past in a few seconds, every bill accounted for, the total announced before he has finished registering that you started. It looks like a magic trick. It is just 10,000 repetitions. Delphine in the proof room has the same gift in a different key, her fingers flying over the keys, and Carleen can fan a stack and know the count by the thickness alone, near enough to make you suspicious, and every woman on the line has some version of this hard-won speed. It is the craft of the job, the slow, hard, and invisible part that takes years. the part that separates the new girl counting carefully and slowly from the veteran whose hands have made counting invisible. And it is precisely the part the bank takes most completely for granted, because to the bank a correct count is simply the baseline, the floor, the least you can do. That is the quiet injustice tucked inside the skill. Mastery here is invisible by design. The better you get, the less anyone sees you working, until your years of accumulated speed register to the customer and the manager alike as nothing happening at all, money simply being correct, fast, the way water is wet. Nobody applauds a thing that looks effortless. The effort was the whole point, and the reward for achieving it is that the effort disappears, and with it any chance of being credited for it. There is a grim little test the speed has to pass too, which is that fast is worthless without exact. A quick wrong count is worse than a slow right one, so the speed you built had to be married, every single time, to perfect accuracy, no exceptions, ever. You are not just fast, you are fast and right, simultaneously, all day, a combination that took years to fuse and that the world treats as the unremarkable minimum for a job it pays in pin money. The blur of bills is never once wrong. That is not luck, that is the craft. The strap of 20s is counted, the total is right, the customer pockets it without a second thought, already turning to leave, never knowing he just watched a master at work. You reach for the next deposit. Your hands are already moving, already counting, already certain, doing the beautiful invisible thing they do 10,000 times a day, for a wage that has never once acknowledged they learned how. It is Friday afternoon, it is payday, and the entire working population of the town has decided to visit you personally. The line reaches the door. Every man in it has a paycheck to cash, and somewhere better to be, and you are the bottleneck between him and his weekend. You count, you stamp, you count, you stamp, you keep the pleasant face bolted on through all of it, and you do not get faster by being rushed. You get faster by being good. The clock crawls, the line does not. Somewhere behind you, your own drawer is quietly getting heavier and more dangerous. Payday Friday is the great tide of the teller's week, predictable as the moon and twice as relentless. The factories let out, the offices close early, and the whole town converts its labour into cash at your window in the space of 2 hours, a flood of paychecks that have to be verified, cashed, and recorded one at a time by hands that cannot afford to speed up into error. You have been bracing for this since Monday. It arrives anyway with the force of something you forgot was coming. The pressure does something interesting to time. The line is long and impatient, every man in it radiating the specific energy of someone whose weekend has already started in his mind and is being held up by you, and that collective impatience presses on the back of your neck like weather. And you cannot let it land. The instant you let the rush into your hands is the instant a count goes wrong, so you hold a strange calm at the centre of the storm, fast but never hurried, the eye that the whole impatient hurricane revolves around. Mr. Szczepanski cashes the same factory check every Friday, and always wants it in a particular split. So much in 20s, the rest in 10s, a little in singles for the weekend, and you build his exact arrangement from memory, while the line behind him sighs, because doing it right the first time is faster than doing it twice. He folds the cash into a worn billfold, says the same Friday joke he says every week, and you laugh the same real laugh, because the regulars are the easy ones, the rhythm you can ride. It is the strangers who slow you, and on payday they all come at once. Your drawer is the quiet danger underneath the rush. Every check you cash empties cash out of it, and every hour the volume passing through your hands climbs, hundreds and then thousands of dollars moving across your counter, and the more that moves, the more there is to get wrong, and the more catastrophic any single error becomes. You watch your cash level the way a sailor watches weather, calling for a fresh supply from the vault before you run dry, because running out of 20s with 40 men in line is a special kind of Friday nightmare. And then it breaks, the way a fever breaks, the last few stragglers cashed and gone, the line dissolved, the lobby suddenly echoing and still. You straighten up, your face released at last as something other than smile just briefly before you put it away again. You did the whole town. You moved a small river of money across your counter in 2 hours, hundreds of transactions, the entire working week of a community turned to cash by your 2 hands, and not once, you are fairly sure, did you make a single error. But fairly sure is not the bank's standard, and so the day is not over, because now your enormous, dangerous payday draw has to be proved. Every dollar of that small river reconciled before you may go home. You flex your aching fingers. You pull the long tape. The town has its weekend now, its cash in its pockets, its joke told and laughed at, and you have one more mountain to climb in an empty bank before you get yours. Once a year, the bank throws a party, and the party tells you everything the daily routine is too polite to say out loud. There is a head table, and the officers sit at it, the men with the desks and the titles and the keys. And there is the other end of the room where the girls sit, the ones who run the windows and the proof machines and the whole front half of the institution. The food is good, the mood is genuinely warm, and the seating chart, drawn up by someone in an office, has quietly put everyone exactly where the bank has always kept them. The party is a real kindness, and you take it as one. There is a banquet room, a good dinner, a few speeches, the president in a festive mood thanking everyone for a fine year. The bank is not being cruel. It is being, by its own lights, generous, gathering its people together to celebrate, and you enjoy the prime rib and the rare evening off your feet in a dress you chose for once instead of one the counter demanded. But a seating chart is an honest document, more honest than the bank perhaps intends, because it has to physically place every person somewhere, and where it places them is a map of what the institution actually thinks. The officers and their wives at the front, the tellers and the bookkeepers and the proof women toward the back. Nobody announced this arrangement. Nobody had to. It assembled itself out of the same gravity that put the coffee pot in your hands, and it seats the whole hierarchy at dinner as plainly as it pays it. Mr. Foss gives a speech thanking the staff for their hard work, and he means it, and he singles out the loan department's strong year and the new accounts the branch brought in, and he does not mention, because it would not occur to him, that the loans were processed and the accounts were opened and the cash was kept flawless all year by the women applauding politely at the back tables. The praise floats to the front of the room where the titles are. The work that earned it sits at the back, clapping for itself without quite realizing. The women make their own warmth at the back tables, the way they make their own everything. Edith holds court. Carlene tells the story about the robbery with the timing of a professional. Ruth laughs until she cries. And Delphine, out of the windowless proof room for one night, is luminous in a green dress nobody at this bank has ever seen her wear. You are, the lot of you, the best company in the room by a wide margin, and you know it, and the knowing is its own quiet party the head table is not invited to. You look down the back tables at the faces, the women you have stood beside through robberies and shortages and staggered lunches and 10,000 balanced draws, and you feel something that is not bitterness. Exactly. Though bitterness would be available, it is closer to recognition. This is the room as it really is. The bank assembled, sorted, and seated. The whole truth of the place laid out on a banquet chart. The people who run it placed neatly at the back, enjoying the party they earned and were not, quite, the guests of honour at. The evening winds down, the speeches are over, the prime rib is cleared, and you gather your coat and say your good nights to the officers at the front and the girls at the back, and Delphine in her green dress, heading home to be invisible again on Monday. You walk out into the cold with Ruth, the two of you rehashing the night, and neither of you says the thing the seating chart said, because you both read it years ago. The chart goes back into a drawer in an office upstairs. Tomorrow there is a drawer to draw, a vault to open, and a town to count, and the morning, as always, will belong to the windows. So that was your day behind the counter. You drew your cash before the doors opened and counted it twice. You stamped 100 passbooks, caught a check that was not quite right, cashed the whole town on payday, and balanced to the penny while a man explained interest to you. You made the coffee. You trained the boy who will be your boss by spring. You were called one of the girls roughly 40 times, and you answered to it every time, and you ran the place anyway. It is easy, from here, to see only the unfairness of it, the pin money and the seating chart and the credit card you could not have. But spare a thought for the women who actually stood on that marble. They were faster than anyone gave them credit for, calmer in a robbery than they had any right to be, and so reliably exact that the whole solemn temple of trust rested, quietly, on their two hands. They knew precisely what they were worth. That was the part the bank never managed to take. They balanced fortunes they were not allowed to borrow. They kept a town's small savings safe $1 at a time, and went home on a wage everyone agreed was not quite real, and came back the next morning before the doors opened to do it all again, perfectly. Thank you for spending this one with me, and for keeping me company at whatever strange hour you have found yourself here. You have made it all the way to the end, which means the day is finally, properly over, and there is nothing left to count. So let your shoulders drop, let the marble go cold, and the lobby go dark, and the line dissolve toward the door. Let your feet at last stop aching. Settle deeper into your pillow and let the long, careful day unspool itself and drift somewhere out of reach. The drawer is locked. The vault is sealed until morning. You do not have to be exact about anything now. Sleep well.